as addictive. So it's got the lowest potential for abuse of all five. So that tells you about the five schedules legally, and some general rules for either all or well for all these drugs that are in Schedule 1 through 5. You have to require, if you're certainly going to sell them, if you have a significant amount, you must maintain records, especially must maintain a record of how much you have, a record of what you have and how much you have. This is especially true for Schedule 1s through 4, and it's also true for 5, Schedule 5. You must have a permit for it. If you're going to have it and they catch you with it, you have to have a permit, and that's one of the things that makes it illegal. If you don't have a permit, there are fines for this. Many drugs and other things to know about it. There are many drugs that are listed in the Controlled Substances Act, but what about? I mean, this is something that people have certainly tried. You have a drug, you can synthesize it, but some clever chemist, let's say, said, you know something, I'm going to attach a little methyl group right over here. Doesn't do anything to the drug, doesn't harm, maybe make it a tiny bit less soluble. But attaching a little methyl group to to a part of it that doesn't do anything, you'll have the same exact illegal substance, same exact effect on the brain. But lo and behold, it wasn't on the list because it's got that tiny little methyl group in the middle of nowhere. So it's not illegal, right? They would try that. But the way the Controlled Substances Act has been formulated, it allows that these things are illegal too. These are like designer drugs. That they're made especially, let's say, for a specific use or to avoid the drug, just to make it a little bit different from what's on the list. So they do, within the Controlled Substances Act, they do allow for the illegal nature of these very similar, chemically different, but in their effect, they're very similar to drugs that are on the list. They have these things be illegal also. So that's a part of what's in the Controlled Substances Act. Also, it's a little bit flexible in that it allows the USDA, the U.S. District Attorney, to add or remove drugs from the list easily enough if they're found to be no longer having a potential for abuse, or suddenly a new drug comes up and like crocodile, that was new to me, severely addictive drug. Meaning that it's very hard to get off of that. I'm not sure. I mean, again, it's a dangerous thing, and it's a drug. And one of the side effects is it makes the skin scaly and flaky and like crocodile skin. Anyway, it's a new, as far as I know, it's a new drug. They had to allow flexibility in the act to include new drugs that are coming up, or if they didn't realize a certain chemical was addictive, then to change the schedule of that chemical. So there's flexibility that the law has. Also included in the law are precursors to drugs. In order to manufacture the drugs, you have to have some precursors, whatever that might be, like acetic anhydride to change, let's say, something to heroin, change morphine to heroin, acetic anhydride. So that might also be illegal. Now, it's not really illegal. Acetic anhydride is not illegal, but in Tasmania it is. That's just an example of a precursor. That you have a certain substance, which is not a drug, but you combine it or you react it with another chemical. That other chemical, which is also not when you act with the other chemical, the harmless substance suddenly turns into a dangerous drug. So this precursor, this side chemical that's used to make the original chemical into the dangerous drug, is also illegal. So not just the beginning chemicals that you use, but also the chemical used to make it react to form the illegal drug. That's also illegal in the Controlled Substances Act. Tasmania, as you may recall, is the world's leader in legal opiates and legal narcotics used for the medical world. And they start with opium from the opium poppy, and they can be turned into heroin, but with acetic anhydride. So in Tasmania, they have lots of this morphine and opiates around. They're going to keep tabs on even the acetic anhydride, which is really a harmless chemical. I mean, in organic laboratories, it's used all the time. And in this country, it's not even illegal. But in Tasmania, it is, because it is a precursor for the drug for heroin. So, as far as the forensics of it, the handling of the drug evidence, there's a lot of drugs, and therefore there's too many specific procedures to state. You should know the general procedures. Make sure to get as much as possible. You see the drug, you see something that's suspicious, looks like a drug, collect it. Put it in your closed containers. Make sure not to let it leak out, and get as much as possible. Again, make sure it doesn't get out, it doesn't get lost. Usually, I mean, the people manufacturing it don't want to get lost either, so they put it in containers. So use their container. Don't only use their container, put their container in your own container, but often the container it's found in is good enough. It seals it well enough. The truth is, you're going to have to take the container also as part of the evidence, so you can take the whole thing. Instead of, you're not going to, of course, pour it out of the container and put the container in a separate place. So anyway, you should take the whole thing, including the container, when it's found at the crime scene, where the drugs might have been manufactured or just kept. If it's a volatile material that it can evaporate, make sure it's put in an airtight container. Powders are generally not volatile, but some liquids are, so put them in airtight containers. You might be wondering, how do you know it's volatile or not? Well, if you don't know, put it in an airtight container. Continuing with the collection of it, we also make sure that what's written down is the background information. You have to know where it was, what kind of place it was found in, how it was found, let's say in an open container, a closed container. That might help the analyst know what to look for. I mean, you have a strange powder in an open container, they might say, oh, well, you'd never keep, let's say, fentanyl in an open container because you breathe the stuff and kill. Or whatever it is. They might know what to check for when they know the circumstances. So you must put in the circumstances. Remember, we're not talking about like a blood stain or something like that, where it's kind of clear what it is. We're talking about an unknown powder or an unknown liquid. It may be a drug. It might be water. I mean, we don't know what it is. So make sure to put in a lot of background information. You don't know what it is, collect it as evidence. Let the analyst figure out whether it's just tap water or it's hashish oil or something. No, and don't smell it or taste it. We'll get to that soon, presumably. Also, where it's found. I mean, if it's in the bedroom, often it's like just taken there. If it's in the garage, you never know. They might actually be a place where they manufacture it, and they have precursors to drugs in garages rather than in the bedroom, where they're not going to actually make the drugs usually. So the analyst would say, well, I'll have to test for precursors because it was found in a garage. So the background information should be put there somewhere. Generally what's done is you have an initial drug analysis. They have kits that make it very easy. So a police officer that sees something there, sees a powder, he might be able to do the test immediately. So it's not conclusive, but it certainly provides, it's not conclusive proof, but it certainly provides enough to pretty much know what the drug is. So these can be even done at the crime scene for the police officer or whoever is investigating it, rather than in the lab where the forensic experts, the laboratory experts, are holding on to it. So again, at the crime scene, sometimes it might